Confabulation.
音の科学者グアムへ。
Thank you so much for your time. I'm here tonight with Miss Shavonna Renee Newsom, co-founder of Black Lives Matter, Greater New York City, as well as congressional candidate NY15. Shavonna, it's an honor to have you. I know you are very busy right now, and I want to thank you from all the moms out here, all the people out here. You know, I followed your stories, I've followed some of your work, and you are definitely creating change, and you are making a difference out here in New York during this pandemic. um, I have personally seen the change in just going outside, and some of the issues that started to happen, and you calling on Mayor de Blasio to do something. You actually have made a difference in many people's lives right now. So it is an absolute honor to have you. How are you?
Thank you so much, Samantha. As humbly as I can say this, thank you for the praise, but everything I do is just, I'm a servant. I owe the Bronx, I owe my community so much. I'm happy to be able to stand at the vanguard. I'm happy that I can use my voice to amplify the voices of others. Happy I can demand justice. I'm just happy to be doing the work, happy to be serving people. If I can see one less person brutalized by the NYPD, I can see the mayor make policy changes, or I've also been fighting for Black maternal health. If another Black woman doesn't lose her life while giving birth to her child, I'll be happy.
You are definitely heaven sent, and thank you for being out there and doing all the work that so many of us should have already been doing. Thank you. Thank you from my motherhood. Thank you from, I think about my sons. You are making a huge impact, and thank you for doing all the dirty work for us.
It does get a little dirty. I'm happy I get to sit with you with my face and makeup on and my dress, but most of my days are usually spent in t-shirts, and now with COVID, face masks and face shields. But even right now, because it's a pandemic, no injustice will fall by the wayside. That's just a vow that I owe to the borough, to the city, and to all people of this country who are not being treated properly. I owe this. This is my work as a servant.
I truly, truly appreciate you. So how did you ever think that you would be in this position?
No, I cannot say I thought that I would be in this position. Some say it came by blood, by birthright. My parents met at a civil rights rally in, I believe, 69. Yeah, it was 69. I always get 68 and 69 confused. But Roosevelt High School in the Bronx, they were fighting to have Black teachers teach Black history. So it's in my blood. My brother is a freedom fighter. He is a civil rights leader as well. And it just came from taking action. If you don't like something, you do something to change it. The control and the power belongs to you. And that's what I hope that I leave behind, that people need to know how powerful they actually are. Most of the changes that you see come about happen because, just like you, I'm either on social media or before social media. And yes, sometimes families do reach out for assistance, but watching the news, and it's like, I'm not tolerating this. I'm going to speak up about this. I'm going to organize people. I'm going to galvanize people, and I'm going to get the change that I want to see. And I've never been elected to office. I've never ran for office. It's just because I just believe that the world can be better. It's my optimism and my determination which pushes me forward. And I've always hated the bully. I feel like the Bronx is the kid who gets beat up and picked on in school. When you think about environmental injustice, when you think about wealth disparities, how we're parallel to the wealthiest congressional districts in the nation, and we're the poorest, and our median income is $28,000. And we think of things like Asthma Alley, where kids here have 8 times the national rate. They spend most of their childhood going to hospitals. I've always been that kid who stood up to the bully for other people, who hated to see people get picked on. So I feel like people have forgotten my borough and they're constantly picking on it and taking advantage of it. So that's just who I am. I've always stood up to the bully.
Is the structure of how Congress members are split up, and how is that important to us?
Is each district is broken up. The way that they count how many people in a voting block or in a congressional district around the nation is when people fill out their census, which is why it's so important to be counted. And you've seen so many pushes and ads towards people being counted. But the way the whole entire Congress is split up, it's the whole entire entity is actually called Congress, even though we usually refer to what I'm running for, United States House of Representatives, as Congress. There are 2 sections. One section is a state senator, and each state, all 50 states, have 2 people to represent their state senate. They remain in office for about a total of 6 years. And then there's the House of Representatives, which people generally refer to as Congress, and there's about 435 members. I'm looking to be one of those 35 members to make up the 117th meeting of Congress. And where the way how we hear bills and legislation, it starts in the House of Representatives. So once I'm elected, I'll have the power to write laws to help us. One of my platform issues is universal basic income. Yes, I have been calling for extra stimulus money with the income movement, but once I'm elected, I'll have the power to write legislation to guarantee a basic income for all. Also, what we talked about in the beginning of our talks was police reform, creating federal legislation so that we'll have national police reform, so we'll stop seeing Black and brown men and women murdered and brutalized by the police. Also, when we think about housing, ending homelessness can start with Congress. So all the things we think of when we think about low-income people, we think about SNAP benefits and how money is allocated and funded to a community, that all starts with Congress. That's why I feel the need to do it on a federal level. Now, the way it works is we have 420,000 registered voters in my district. Unfortunately, most people, without the pandemic happening, do not show up to the polls. So about 11,000 people pick who will represent the district. Now, when I go to the district, although I'm a Bronx girl, I always have the Bronx in heart and mind. The laws that I'll be able to draft will apply to all 50 states.
Wow. Okay, so that's a lot of power.
That's a lot.
And that's a lot of power that you can use to represent.
Absolutely. And I know we'll get into it more, being a Black woman, the disparities and everything, but you cannot believe how many times I've been tried to be persuaded not to run in this race. People told me I should stick to a city level because no one wants to see true economic development for Black and brown people. No one wants to see us rise. No one wants a national standard. As you see right now, what's happening down in Georgia with Ahmaud Arbery, where he was murdered going for a jog. The state of Georgia does not have hate crime laws. But if there was a federal and national standard, the Department of Justice would have jumped in right away. So we need people who represent our culture and who stand and who fight to be able to implement laws for all. That's the way people like us got our voting rights. That's the way women and people of color, how we're no longer riding the back of the bus. We're no longer in segregation because it took federal laws. It just wouldn't work if we relied on the state government to protect us. Well, first, I want to let people know, because it seems like a little bit of voter suppression we're having here in New York City, and it's unclear. You have a certain allotted amount of time to get an absentee ballot, and what they're not widely promoting while they're talking about the beaches and the parks being open for Memorial Day is that the polls will be open normal time on June 23rd. And it's most important for people to go and vote in their local elections. Those are the people who really make a true impact on their lives. Everyone usually thinks of November in terms of voting, but it's important to go out and vote for your local Congress people, assembly people, if there are any city council people who are up for election. Now, to support my campaign, you can go to Shavonna Newsom for Congress, and you can donate there, as well as you can volunteer. You can volunteer to phone bank for us, to canvas for us, to be a social media person, to do research for us. And also what I've been working on in response to the COVID pandemic was the people in my borough were starving prior to COVID-19. There were already existing food banks, and those food banks became overwhelmed. Our campaign personally sent 3,500 people to food banks, and we knew that people were still going hungry at night. Seniors, we didn't want them to risk going outside in the beginning of the pandemic to get food, so we created something called the People's Food Program, and I'm talking about rode in the truck and brought the bag of groceries myself to 1,500 people with the team. And those grocery bags feed a family for about 2 to 3 days. Governor Cuomo and de Blasio are announcing this, but I want everyone to know that June 23rd, you should wear the proper PPE, personal protective gear, face mask, stand 6 feet apart, and it's worth it going to stand outside for democracy. It's important because we see the response of our leaders. Some of the people who I am running against, and I've noticed it around the country, have tremendously failed our communities. On April 7th, my letter in conjunction with Black Lives Matter Greater New York was sent to Governor Cuomo because we foresaw the racist social distancing practices. Today, Mayor de Blasio just gave us one of the demands, and he's funding violence interrupters. Those are people who go into the community every day, who put their life on the line to keep violence down. We called for money in early April to give them money to enforce social distancing because we knew the police were incapable and incompetent of handling that. The Bronx has become the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic. Officer Daniel Pantaleo, who had murdered Eric Garner, it's very rare that a cop loses his job when he kills a Black or brown man. So we got him fired. In terms of changing most recently the policies in terms of social distancing, we've done that. We fought for immigration. I know most people think we just fight police brutality, but all issues, environmental justice, our youth coalition were a part of the organizers for the historic youth climate strike. So Black Lives Matter will always and forever be important. And we see it most during the presidential election, why Black Lives matter the most, why Black votes matter the most, because you see politicians, most recently Joe Biden today, who misspoke and classified all of our Blackness, who he gave up a half-hearted apology to that. But Black people are important. We account for a huge voting bloc. What Black people don't realize is that we usually pick the president, that the votes from South Carolina pick your Democratic nominee.
Who would you like to see become president?
Wow, I usually don't get stumped on questions. I want to see a candidate who becomes president who has a true Black agenda. I am tired of the pandering. It's not enough for you to come and sing an old Negro spiritual at our churches and claim to carry hot sauce in your bag, or it's actually woefully insulting for you to have something called the Lift Your Voice and Sing agenda. I want someone who has real economic development policy. We need an agenda. Black people are tired of being pandered to. When politicians speak to other groups of people, when they speak to immigration rights, when they speak to the LGBTQIA+ community, there are real policy changes. So I would love a candidate who has policy changes for Black people. Or I could always write myself in. I'm kidding.
I know you will be doing the nitty-gritty work. So thank you again for all your work. And you definitely got my. And also remember, guys, June 23rd.
Was to show the inside of activism. We shot last summer, so it showed me, my brother Hawk Newsom, and the members of our organization, as well as other groups who fight social injustice in Atlanta and other parts of New York City. And what we did was we just wanted to protect people. I actually had a video go viral and some news stories came out of it.